Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about Russia, and it has put an end to its operational pause. We're going to talk and get into that a little bit today. What does that mean for Ukraine? Well, to start with, the fact that Russia's ended its operational pause, it tells me straight away that they're going to lose a little bit of momentum from that operational pause. It doesn't matter how organized you are, it doesn't matter how strong of a military group you are, you're going to lose a little bit of momentum. It's just like anything. You stop doing it for a little bit, you're going to lose a bit of momentum. You stop going to the gym for a week or two, doesn't matter how fit you are, the momentum is lost, okay? So that's one key thing that Ukraine has in their favor for this. But according to the news sources and according to logic, that's about as far as it goes for what's in Ukraine's favor at this moment in time. Now, we need to talk a little bit about the Russian artillery capability. It's proven to be devastating, okay? Now, it doesn't matter how you take the information coming in. Russia is putting down more armored artillery shells than Ukraine by quite a considerable amount, okay? This operational pause hopefully has allowed Ukraine to resupply itself a little bit quicker than it would have. Logistics is key in this situation in the first place. We understand that logistics wins fights in the long run, that is. So unless Ukraine has been able to get more support with foreign weaponry and mainly ammunition, artillery ammunition, within that operational pause period, which, you know, is going to take a long time, actually. This is not something that can be done overnight. My take is that it hasn't been able to make that happen, put it that way. They might have all of the means in place for it to have taken place, you know, needing that extra munitions, the artillery, the weaponry. That might be in the process now, but it's going to take a while before it actually reaches Ukraine in the right places, okay, guys? So my take on it is they've acted upon it, but that operational pause period just hasn't been enough. I don't know, I think that's one thing Ukraine needs at this moment in time, is time, okay? Russia is putting a lot of artillery downrange. This next clip, we're gonna listen to just how it's happening on the ground, okay, guys? So let's go.
As we mentioned, Ukraine's government say at least 40 civilians have been killed in the latest series of Russian bombardments. Let's get the latest situation more broadly on the ground in Ukraine with retired Air Vice Marshal Sean Bell. Sean, great to see you, as always. Let's start with a broad snapshot of where we stand here in the war at this stage.
So, you know, there's one thing for sure, and this can't be argued, that's a lot of red. There's a lot of ground being taken by brute force in many cases. The artillery bombardments that Russia is well known for have been successful in many of the regions, and they've took the land. They've got a foothold there. For Ukraine to be able to take back that land, I think it's going to have to, you know, I don't like to say this, probably utilize some of the tactics that Russia has shown thus far. And, you know, heavy artillery bombardments is probably going to be the key for this, as much as people would not like to agree with that. That's my take on it. I think that they're going to have to match fire with fire in this one.
Yeah, well, it's day 144. Key milestone today is really the Russians to declare the end of this operational pause. Shouldn't be a great surprise. It was inevitable it was going to end eventually. It is quite a surprise. It's only 10 days long, because that hasn't been enough time to regenerate combat power for the Russians. But inevitably, there's a compromise with all of these decisions, because every day that the Russians are pausing, it gives time for the Ukrainians to dig in, to prepare the ground. And also, the Russians lose momentum, which is so difficult.
We've just been speaking about momentum. It's something we get taught a lot. We get told a lot of the time when serving in the military that there's a lot of waiting about in war, but the moment you can gain a bit of momentum is when you've really got to get the foot on the gas. You've got to knuckle down, dig deep, and continue the fight. Doesn't matter how exhausted you are, how hungry you are, you've got to keep on pushing forward whilst you've got the momentum. It's one of the greatest things you could possibly have in war, actually. So this operational pause might actually be a lot to do with Russia's inability to be able to supply themselves with the amount of ammunition that they need. They're dropping a lot of tonnage on the ground every single day in terms of artillery. Was this an operational pause to rearm themselves? Obviously it was, but to what extent is the key thing to ask here.
difficult at times to gain and then maintain in warfare. What we are going to see now, there's renewed offensive. We're going to see the continued artillery barrage and then troop movements. Siversk and Bakhmut are likely to be the first priorities here. And then once they fall, it'll be across to Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. But a very animated situation on the ground.
And if we kind of step back and look at all of the land that Russia has seized across Ukraine, how do we frame this? Is this a success for them so far? Are they on the path to an overall victory, or how would you frame it?
Well, we've generally been looking at Ukraine resistance and the tenacity of their defensive forces, but the harsh reality is this red area has been expanding steadily over the last few weeks.
Yeah, something I've just mentioned there, actually. And if you know me, I don't actually watch any of the videos fully that I react to. So, yeah, I think what's been portrayed in the media to obviously keep people's faith in Ukraine and in Europe intervention and especially the United States intervention. I mean, the US at this moment in time, let me just check my figures. United States has committed approximately $5.3 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since the beginning of Biden administration. But this number in particular is the one that we need to understand. So the beginning of the Biden administration, but including approximately $4.6 billion since the beginning of the Russian unprovoked invasion, February 24th. So there's most of that money, all right, I don't know, 80%, 90% or so of that money that was that has been committed to Ukraine has actually been given since the beginning of the war. That's a lot of money, guys, okay? So Ukraine, yeah, they're a strong people. They've had a lot of support. Is it too much for us to admit that maybe that support at this moment in time just isn't enough with the way Russia is going at this moment in time? You know, at one point, hopefully the tables will turn, but at this rate, it looks like Russia is steamrolling ahead and taking it to the Ukrainians, which is not good news for anyone, really, because if Russia takes Ukraine, I believe that's the first of many steps in Europe. Personally, I know a lot of people will disagree with that. That's just what I believe.
And months. If Ukraine is to turn the tide, the Western weapons, as your previous correspondent talked about, are going to be key to this. It's not just about getting the equipment to the front line and getting the soldiers trained. It's also just the logistics involved. And I use an example that the Russians have used 20,000 rounds of ammunition yesterday. Each of those rounds weighs about 50 kilograms. So that's about 1 million kilograms per day of artillery that the West is going to have to move in to support any Ukrainian offensive.
Right, so that's if Ukraine matches fire with fire. We've just been talking about that. So to counteract that bombardment, Ukraine's going to have to, you know, I think it was whatever the number was, 1 million tons or whatever he's just said. Sorry, I can't remember. Worth of artillery back into Russia's backyard, so to speak. That's a lot. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to be a massive effort from the supporting countries. And you bet your bottom dollar United States is going to get the brunt of that support. So is that a realistic thing that's going to happen? Maybe it's not in the coming weeks. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's in the next month or so if we really see a big spike in support and trying to match Russia's artillery effort. I think that's going to take a while, though. I don't think that's going to be something that's going to happen pretty soon. Just for the logistics involved, just for the time frames involved, getting that munitions and weaponry into Ukraine. I don't know. Who's this operational pause going to be better for then? Is it going to be better for Ukraine? Is it going to be better for Russia? I don't actually know the answer to that at this moment in time.
That takes time and will take weeks rather than days. In the meantime, the Ukrainian strategy clearly is to try to stem the Russian advance to buy themselves time. The Russians are also an occupying force. They've occupied quite a large area. That spreads them quite thin. And what's pretty clear as well is the Ukrainians are putting pressure on the far northwest in Kharkiv, also pressure on Kherson, because that forces the Russians. They don't want to see a breakthrough by Ukrainians. So do they divert more manpower to stem those advances in Kharkiv or Kherson? But if they do that, then that dilutes their main effort around the Donbass region, which they clearly won't want to do. Whatever, it is very clear that the next chapter of this devastating war in the Donbass has commenced, and it's not.
Okay, so like he's just been saying there, we're into the next phase, so to speak, of the Ukraine war. What happens here, I think, is actually going to be pivotal to the efforts. We've seen how Russia has fought this war so far. We've seen the support that pretty much everyone in the globe has given Ukraine. Both strategies are working on both sides. It's a matter of who's going to be able to last the longest. Now, I think the supply of support from the countries giving that support it's not going to be endless, but I do think that support will outlast Russia's own ability to supply itself long term. I do think that, you know, all that's been said, the sanctions that's been put in place on Russia being isolated in the world at this moment in time due to the invasion, which many countries seem to believe that it was unlawful to do so. I myself believe it was unlawful for many reasons. Yeah, which one's going to outlast each other? I think long term, I think Ukraine will. It's just whether or not that support is going to be given long term. That's the big question, really. Is the support going to be given to Ukraine long term? I'll fire that question back to you guys. To be honest with you, a lot of the people in the chat are a lot more apt on this subject than I am, anyway. So, Russian operational pause has come to an end. Is that going to be a good thing for Ukraine? A good thing for Russia? I think it's going to be a good thing short term for both. If Ukraine can match the armament effort in terms of artillery, mainly the bombardment needs to commence from them really into Russia's backyard for them to kind of get anywhere near to the success that Russia's had with that, to take back land. It's been very effective for Russia, we can't lie about that. But will the spirit of Ukraine last? I think it will. But what do you guys think? Troops, thanks for stopping by on this one. Another small update. We're going to be doing these every day that we can. I appreciate everyone who's in the chat right now supporting the channel. It really does mean the world to me. So yeah, thank you very much. And if you're watching this from anywhere in the world, I'm really happy for that. Thank you guys. I appreciate you so much. And take it easy. Peace.